Alright, what's going on my YouTube friends? In this video I'm going to be going over ways that you can survive a power outage. I'm sure most of you seen what happened last year down in Texas. I did a little research and it looked like over 200 people died down there when they lost their power. Their water pipes in their house froze up. A lot of them didn't have enough food in their house. So a lot of the gas stations shut down when they lost power because you need power to run a gas station. I'm sure all the stores emptied fast. I'm going to go over quite a few things in this video to try to help you out and survive. I've done a lot of research on a lot of this stuff already, just in case you had something happened here where I live. That way I could protect my family and feed my family and keep my family warm. I have some notes here on the table so I don't forget to tell you anything, because along with the research I did in the past, I did a lot more research watching everybody else's video out there like this, so I'm pretty much compiling all them videos into one video of everything that I thought looked really important. If you know anything else, put that down in the comments, because I'm sure people are going to read the comments and this may help save somebody's life. Now everything I'm going over, this should help you get through maybe a week, and if you have enough stuff, it could maybe help you get through a month or 2 months. I'm going to go over staying warm and where to sleep if your house does get down below freezing, lighting, power, safety, and food and water. Alright, first before we get into everything, I have one little experiment that I want to do with a clay pot, because if you're already looking this video up, you may already see where people are making these little heaters out of clay pots and candles. I'm going to take my camera up in my walk-in closet and I want to start one of these clay pot heaters up, because my walk-in closet is not heated, so it's cold in there. I want to see if it's going to raise the temperature in there. So let's go do that. Okay, it is 65 degrees in here. Not real cold, but I think cold enough to do this experiment. Alright, now here's the clay pots, and I have 3 little tea lights that I'm going to put down below them. Alright, now they say you can just lay them on a plate like that. Now I have something down below it that this can't burn, the plates can't burn. And also, if you would try this, make sure you do this where if you have dogs or kids, they can't bump into this, because lighting a fire is not always the safest thing to do in your house. Now I have some of these little, hopefully these will work, these little coins that I got when I was in the military helping the recruiter out. I'm going to stack up 2 of them. Yeah, that's going to give it air down under there. And this is supposed to heat up. And then I got a quarter to put on top. Okay, that'll work. Let me set the other one up. So I'm going to do 2. Now the only thing is, these little tea lights that I got, I think these are only going to burn like an hour. So if you buy a little better tea light, or you just put a little candle inside here, I think that would work also. Alright, I got that experiment going, so we'll go back there at 2. Alright, first thing I want to say is, if it starts getting really cold in your house, a good thing to do is have a hat for everybody in your house, and wear a hat. If you keep a nice hat on your head, you're going to be able to stay warmer longer. Then blankets. You should have lots of blankets. If you have a lot of extra blankets, maybe just put them in storage containers and store them away, just in case you would lose heat. This is one that I bought, I think, last year at Dick's Sporting Goods store. It's really nice to keep something like this in your car in case something like this would happen in your car. And people will keep like a couple candles in their car too, because if you would break down out in the road when it's below freezing, you could light that candle up and that'll help keep you warm inside your car. The next thing I want to talk about is covering your windows. If you lost all the heat in your house, it's a really good idea to try to cover your windows up. Now you could cover your windows up with, you could use a blanket to cover your windows up with. You could use cardboard. A real nice thing, if you do have some, would be to, at least on a few of your windows, would be to cover it with plastic. If you do cover your windows, try to do it like on the south facing side of your house, where the sun is going to hit your house. Try to make sure you can remove that during the day. If the sun is out really bright and hitting them windows, that will actually help make heat inside your house. So on that side of your house, if you don't know what the south side is, just pay attention to where the sun is hitting your house during the day. I would try to only cover them windows up at nighttime, unless you have no sun hitting them windows, and you may want to cover them up all day. But like I said, plastic would be nice because you can still kind of see outside. If you're stuck in your house for 1 or 2 weeks and you're not looking outside, now I guess you could just go outside, but it's just nice to see outside once in a while. You'll start going crazy. Next thing I'm going to bring up is a sleeping bag. You should have one sleeping bag for each person in your house. Sleeping inside a sleeping bag at night will really help you keep warm. And if you don't have that, I mean, a couple really good thick blankets, you know, layer them up, that will help. Layers always help to keep you warm. Whew. All right, this should be a no-brainer, but if you have a wood burner, I recommend having enough wood on hand that you could at least get through, if you lost your power, if you could get through at least a month, maybe even 2 months. Now, I have a little wood burner in my garage, but I have it so I can set this up in my house if I do lose power. So along with that, make sure you have enough lighters or matches. I keep matches in a little jar also. And just to back all that up, I do have a ferro rod with a really good knife. Now here, I'll put a little video up here in the corner. That was me starting this fire. I did start my fire with my ferro rod just to kind of practice a little bit. Now, using this with some newspaper is pretty easy with newspaper. Now, if you'd have to use this with some dry wood, it's a little bit harder. You may want to practice. It's really nice to have one of these on hand. They're not that expensive. Now, I have a real good knife. This is a Garber knife, and it's definitely not the most expensive out there, but it's definitely not the cheapest. It's a full tang knife, so that means the metal goes all the way through the handle to this end. I like to keep some 550 cord around my ferro rod so I can put it around my neck in case some reason I was doing this out and about, out in the woods. I don't lose this. I also made a little pellet burner out of this ammo can because I know I only have so much wood saved up in case this would ever happen. I'm guessing maybe I have enough to get through a month, month and a half, maybe. But then I have another probably 1.5 tons of pellets right now on hand, so I can burn some pellets in this. And I have a video showing how I made this. Also in the video, I just burned pellets in my wood burner. Now they don't burn if you just dump them in there and try to light them on fire. So you'd have to watch that video to see how to burn them. They work pretty good if you know what you're doing. They need lots of air. Along with all that wood you got for your wood burner, I recommend starting to save some of your newspapers. Maybe get a nice little stack of newspapers that you could just let sit somewhere. They don't take up that much room, as it makes starting a fire a lot easier if you have newspaper. Now, if you don't have any of that, a nice little heater that you could pick up or buy. Almost everything here I'm going to talk about, I'll put down in my description if you want to look that up. Or you can just try to head to Walmart or Lowe's or your local hardware store. You can buy a lot of this stuff. The next thing would be a buddy heater. Here's a picture of a buddy heater. They are supposed to be really nice to use inside your house. That's another thing. If you do use anything to heat inside your house, other than like your furnace, make sure it is safe to use inside your house. I have a battery powered carbon monoxide detector that I'm gonna, so if my power goes out, this will still work with no power. It's a good idea to have one of these just in case, especially if you're burning all this stuff inside your house. Now, I did see when I was watching through some of the other videos, somebody recommended having a digital one, which I agree. I think that would be a good idea. Here's a picture of a digital one. The reason they said to have a digital one is you'll be able to see, it's going to read numbers on the digital part, and you'll be able to see the carbon monoxide levels in your house slowly starting to rise. So that's a good idea. All right, if you end up staying in one room of your house, because I recommend that if it gets really cold in your house and it's freezing, I would try to like partition your house off into different sections so you can keep that one room really warm. But another thing you can do to think about is take maybe a towel, or if you have enough blankets, you're going to want to roll this up so it's the same width as preferably the same width as your door, but there. You can cover the bottom of doors. That'll help seal up a room to keep it warmer. Well, my plan would be to stay here and in this room. The reason I tell you that is because I have this big opening right here that goes upstairs. My plan would be to cover this up with some blankets, or if somehow I had enough cardboard I could cover this up. I would want to make this so it would be easy to get through in case I needed to go upstairs. I don't want to have to tear stuff down all the time, but you'd want to cover this up. All right, talked a little bit about candles for heat. Now, I'd recommend trying to start buying some candles. You see some candles on sale at the store, buy some candles. But another thing I didn't think of, but by watching some of these other videos, almost everybody has some birthday candles. Well, you can take these birthday candles and make Crisco burners. Now you're going to buy, this is a 6-pound tub of Crisco. Now I took this Crisco, and like with one of these candles, you might have to use a smaller jar. Like I have the smaller jars and the bigger jars. All right, these are 1 quart, and they say that these will burn around 100 hours. I've never tried that. If anybody out there's ever tried that, let me know. Now, I do have a candle down inside them, along with this completely filled up with Crisco. Now, you can buy generic stuff if you want to. I think I could make like 4 or 5 of these 1 quart candles out of 1 tub of this 6-pound container. There's some more candles that I've bought, and I have these big candles. But like I said, and everything I go over in this video, some of this stuff could be dangerous, like using flames. So be very careful. Don't blame it on me if you burn your house down. There's another candle. Then along with lighting, I do have these little kerosene lamps that I bought. And there's like a little wick. Now you're gonna fill up the bottom here and then light the wick. And I have a few gallons of this. This is supposed to be safer than just using kerosene. Now if you buy stuff like that, it's nice to also have some extra wicks on hand. Another thing to have on hand would be definitely some flashlights. Now I have some Craftsman stuff that I can use these batteries for light. I have this one, and I do have rechargeable batteries, another good thing to have on hand. Now with all this, you're saying, okay, I have no power. How am I going to charge this back up if it dies? Well, that's when I have my, you can call these power stations. Some people call them solar generators. That gets some people excited if I call them solar generators, but we'll call them power stations. I have a Titan and I have a Blue Eddy. This one has a 3,000 watt inverter in it. This one has a 1,000 watt inverter in it. So this one definitely I can run a lot more stuff off this. Has a little bigger battery. Now also with the Titan, I can put, this battery's down here at the bottom. I can put 2, 3, 4, 10 of these batteries on here if I want. And I can charge this up with solar panels. Right here is a solar panel. This is a 100 watt solar panel. With this little one, I can hook up like 500 watts of solar panels. I think I actually did hook up 600 watts because you'd never get the exact amount out of that. And I use that exact same solar panel. So I could be charging this and using that at the same time. With this Titan over here, you can hook up to 4,000 watts of solar panels. So if I had 4,000 watts on there, I could probably keep my fridge and freezer and everything going in my house, even if I had quite a few cloudy days. If you have 4,000 watts, you're gonna wanna have at least probably 3 or 4 batteries under there though. Now, I'm using that right now. I'm charging up this spotlight, and I have one of my batteries charging right now for these lights. Also, I could just be running a little LED light off of one of these or this one. Plugs in this one are in the back side. I have this radio plugged into the back of it, right back here. This one, being that it's so big, I think also on that one I can run a drill. So I don't have to use everything that runs off of batteries off of these. I could run this drill, I'm pretty sure, on this one over here too. Plug it in the back here. So that's just for emergencies. If you have something like this, you could run a lot of different things. A few flashlights are good to have on hand. Well, that's why I have the battery charger, and I have some extra batteries. It's good to have those on hand. And I have the small lithium batteries that they go in my Surefire. This is something I learned watching some of the other videos. Nice to have a headlamp for everybody in your house. Just maybe a nice little simple one like this. You can just put that around your neck like that. Doesn't really, it's not that heavy, it's pretty light. So everybody in your house could have one of these around their neck, because as soon as you go to use this flashlight, and then you sit it down, and it's dark in your house, you're gonna forget where you left your flashlight. But if you have it like this, you'll be able to turn your light on, and then just leave it hanging around your neck. If you want to see more about these power stations, I have other videos on both of these. And if you don't want to spend the money that one of these costs, you could buy a smaller one called a Jackery. Here's a picture of that right here on the screen. If you had just had that Jackery, you would easily be able to charge up different rechargeable batteries. You'd be able to charge up these batteries. You'd still be able to run like a little light off of that. And if you keep the solar panels hooked up into it, you'd probably be able to go for days like that. Another thing you got to think about, if you have somebody that's using some kind of medical equipment in your house and they need that to survive, something like this would be really nice to have, because I can run this inside my house. You could get a gas generator, but the gas generator needs to stay outside and you're going to need the gas to keep running that every day. I recommend if you do have a gas generator, I would try to lock that up to something outside, because I'm sure there's a lot of people maybe that live around you that are not prepared at all. And they're going to be, some people are going to be going out trying to steal stuff. So I would recommend locking that generator up to maybe your deck or your clothesline poles. You just don't want to make it real easy for them to steal it. Hopefully, if it's locked up, they'll leave it alone and they'll go to the next house to try to steal something. If you have a gas generator, a nice gas generator would be, a nice one to get would be an inverter generator. Like I'll have a picture here of a Honda. Now you don't have to buy a Honda. You could buy a couple of the other cheaper ones, but if you get an inverter generator, they're really nice and quiet. It's the same generator a lot of the people that go camping a lot, they'll hook them up to their campers because they're really quiet. And the reason you'd want something quiet is because, just like I said, people are going to be out looking for stuff. If you hear a really loud generator, they might try to sneak over to your house at night and steal that generator at night. But if you have a quiet one, they're not going to know it's even there if you have it behind your house. All right, next thing I want to talk about, have on hand, would be a fire extinguisher. Now we just talked about lighting all these candles up and having your wood burner going in your house, so we got flames all over the place. I recommend not having that many candles burning, only burn one here and there, or would recommend just trying to use lights like this most of the time, because you don't got to worry about burning your house down. But if you got some of them burning, like the candles that we burnt in the beginning of this video, I don't want to forget about that. I want to see if that raises the temperature in there, that you're going to have them flames going. So it'd be nice to have a fire extinguisher on hand. If everything else is crazy outside in this world, or whatever's going on while you lost power, you're going to have a hard time getting the fire company to your house. So don't burn your house down. All right, let's go check these candles out. They've been burning hopefully for about an hour. Oh yeah, we still got one burning. And I had a little hiccup. I come back earlier to check this to see, and they went out, so I changed it. It looks like all four are still burning. So I only have 4. Look at the temperature in here. 64 degrees. What did I start at? I think I ended up making it colder. It definitely didn't go up. So that's kind of why I wanted to show this. I mean, it's really making a lot of heat, but didn't seem to make any difference in this room. Let me get my infrared thermometer and I'll show you how hot that is. See, it is really hot. 240 degrees. 260 all the way at the top. But didn't seem to make too big a difference in this room. Maybe it'd be okay if you wanted to warm your hands up or something. Definitely better than nothing. Maybe if you put a big candle under there, or one of them 100-hour candles that I made out of the Crisco somehow, if you could build something up and have a bigger pot to put it under, these definitely hold some heat. Alright, and another thing, if you see, I only got one of mine burning, and for some reason it just wasn't getting enough air. So I found that if I stacked up them real high and had a bigger amount of space between the pot and whatever it's sitting on, it would get air. So I don't know, all these people that make these clay pot heaters, I don't know, it's definitely doesn't seem to really help that much. Alright, another thing that you should have on hand will be a tent. Just a small tent. Now this is a 3 to 4 man tent, so my entire family could sleep in this one tent if I want. But I do have another small tent. This is I think this is this is a 2 to 3 person tent. So it's a little bit smaller than that tent. If you have a tent, you're gonna wanna try to set your tent up on like some carpet, or if you could set your tent up on a bed, that may be even better, because you want the bottom of your tent to not be sitting definitely not sitting on maybe hardwood floor or concrete, just because of it being cold. Now inside my tent, I have a couple mattresses and pillows, so 2 people could really easily sleep in this tent. And like I said, if it got really, really cold, I could put 4 people in that. Now you don't want to burn any candles inside there. Just your body heat alone is going to keep you warm. You would be surprised if I put 4 people in that tent and it was, say, down to 50 in my house, how warm it would get inside that tent. Now if you want to step it up a notch and it starts getting really, really cold, this tent is a little smaller than this tent. So I could set this tent up inside of that tent. Or you can All right, another thing you could do if you are in a tent and you're trying to stay warm, and may say you only have one tent, and you could just take a blanket. Now, you could probably do a little better job than I'm going to do, but take some blankets and cover your tent up. Now you could put 1, 2, 3 blankets up there, or you could even use a tarp. If you have an old tarp, you could put a tarp over that. Now it's going to keep all the heat inside your tent. A couple other things I seen and read online that people did, you could just take that tarp and like on my queen size mattress on my bed, or my queen size bed, I have a big headboard and a small footboard. Well, you could tie a string up in between the headboard and footboard and lay a tarp over top of that and maybe tuck it in. So you'd have like a tent kind of made up out of a tarp over top of your queen bed or your king bed. And one other way you could use that tarp is you could just take that tarp and lay it over top of a table in your kitchen. Now, I don't know if I would leave that table in your kitchen, but maybe if you took that table and put it in a warmer room of your house, or like in your basement, you could put a tarp over that and a couple people could sleep under that, along with maybe throwing your mattress under there if you want. All right, let's talk about water. Drinking water to survive, and also your water lines in your house. Maybe have a few cases of bottled water, because it may not be easy to come by. And along with all those bottles of water, I have a way to filter water. If I would have to go get some water from the creek, or maybe just saving water up that's melting off of my roof, I could filter it. I call this my generic Berkey. Now, if you look up a Berkey water filter, you're going to spend a few $100s on that. I don't know, might even be more than that. But all I have here is 2 food grade buckets, and I ordered some of my own filters. So I have 2 filters. Let me know if you want me to make a better video on how to put this together. There's a lot on the internet, but if you want me to make one, I'll make one. You got them 2 filters, so them 2 filters will go in this bucket. They will drain, you'll pour your bad water in here, and the filters will come out the bottom, 2 little plastic pieces, and it will drip into this bucket, and then you'll have good filtered water. Now you can either leave this bucket solid, or you can put a little spigot on that bottom bucket. Now, some people that live in the city may still have water if your city has a generator to run their pumps that pumps the water to your house. But if you live out in the country and you have no electricity, your well pump's not going to work, so you may not be able to get water inside your house very easily. If you have well water, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it, just so you can get that well water. But if you have no heat, you don't want your pipes to freeze that are coming in your house. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about, freezing pipes. Every house should have a spot where your water comes in your house. It's maybe near where your water counter's at. But this valve right here, if I shut that, and this is actually a valve too, if I shut that and that, all the water in my house will shut off. So that way, if one of my water lines in my house would freeze, the water's not going to keep coming in my house and totally flooding my house out. Now, we can take that a step further. Now for me, this is really close to one of my lowest points where I have water. So I could shut this water off down here and then open all my water up upstairs, and then open this, and I could drain most of my water out of my system, so I don't have to worry too much about some of my pipes freezing. So that's another thing you could think of. If you think you can drain most of your water lines and shut your water off, that will help. If you cannot do that, if you don't know how to turn all your water off in your house, another thing you can do so you can try to keep your lines from freezing and making a mess is just to turn. You could just have your water running like that, really, really slow. So that slow water, that'll make that a lot harder to freeze with that water running really slow like that. Also, it's going to help your trap down in under your sink from freezing up running it like that. If you have your water running like that, you're going to want to do that on every one of your faucets in your house. All right, another thing to think about will be your toilet. You're going to have water in your tank, and you're going to have water inside the toilet. There's also like a trap in the bottom of your toilet here. Don't forget about this water if your house is definitely below freezing. Now, if you seem like you can keep using this, just really watch. You don't want this to freeze up and crack your tank. I think it would take a lot to freeze this stuff. But I mean, this is pretty thick. So, and like I said before, you could put, if you decide not to ever use your toilet, you could maybe just put a little bit of RV antifreeze along with that trap or this trap. All these drains got traps in them and they could freeze and break. This is another faucet that you should probably be turning on and just running really slowly if you can't drain your pipes. All right, also don't forget about your water heater. This could be something you might have to watch so it don't freeze, but before it freezes, I think I would just use all the water up if some reason you don't have water in your house. Depending on how big your water heater is, you might have, I don't know, like mine, I think mine's like 50 gallons of water in here. So you could use that to drink or to clean something and clean your hands, whatever. So you should have a little spigot here on the bottom. Now you're just gonna have to figure out how to open this up and get the water out. All right, another tip, if you are able to drain all your water out, and you definitely know you got all your water drained out, you got your water shut off here, your main shut off. So we're still gonna have water right here. I mean, unless you go out in your yard and you know where your valve is in your yard, which a lot of people live in the city will have a valve outside, maybe it's probably buried down under the ground like 4 or 5 feet. So it doesn't freeze. You could shut that. If you shut that valve off, you'll really be good. But if you can't, you're still gonna have water right here. So we want to keep this above freezing. If this gets to be freezing and you don't have that valve shut off outside, your whole basement or wherever this is at is gonna flood out. So I recommend maybe keeping a thermometer near this so we know what the temperature is here. It seems like a lot of stuff to remember. Another good thing would be to maybe take a piece of paper and write down some of the stuff that you need to keep checking on. So that way it keeps you from getting all stressed out. If you're prepared, this shouldn't be too bad. If in some ways, maybe it'll be kind of fun with you and your family to get together and sleep in tents and you're gonna cook over fire. And all right, we talked about water. Now I'm sure you're also gonna want to eat. So if you have propane, most likely you'll have a grill that you can cook on. Now if it's really cold out and you have a garage, you could probably take your grill inside your garage. But I would recommend maybe still cracking a window in your garage and cracking your garage door. But you can still open your garage door. That's what this handle right here is for. If I pull this handle down, now my garage door open. I can grab this handle or I can just pick mine up. You can do that without electricity. And I can put it back down. Just, oh. Watch your hands. I don't have no handle on mine. Now my garage door is not locked, so it might be hard to get this back engaged. But you can. Now my garage door opener, I do have a lock right here that I could lock mine. And now it's not that easy to just open back up. Now if you don't have that, I could put a stick between here and my ceiling to keep that from somebody breaking into there if I open that up manually. So you can still keep getting some fresh air through there if you're using your grill inside your garage. If you don't have that, you could buy I'll put a picture of it here on the screen. You could buy a thing called heat in a can, and then you get a little fold-up stove, and you can put that little fold-up stove in that heat in a can and light it, and it's gonna work to heat some of your food. I don't really think you're gonna be able to cook on it, but you will be able to heat things up. So if you have canned food. Another thing I recommend is have some canned food stored up, along with maybe some dried food. Dry food lasts a long time. And before you start eating any of that canned food or your dry food, if you lost your electricity, you most likely don't have no electricity to your refrigerator and your freezer. I would recommend trying to eat some of that food up first before you start eating all your dried food, because if your electricity stays out for weeks, that fridge and freezer is not going to stay cold. But if it is cold outside, you could take maybe if you have some coolers, put some food in the coolers and put them outside. Or if your garage is about as cold as your refrigerator, you could put your stuff that is in your refrigerator in your garage and start eating some of that stuff before it goes bad. Another thing while you're doing all this, if we're stuck in the house for 2-3 weeks, we're still going to want to stay clean. And we have no electricity, so most likely your hot water heater is not working, so you don't have any hot water. But if you do have a stove, like I have, a wood stove, I recommend keeping a big pot filled up with water with the lid on. So that way the water doesn't evaporate. That way you always have some hot water on hand. Now if it gets real hot, you're just going to have to scoop some of that out and put it with some cold water. That way you can use that for cleaning your hands or cleaning yourself, or maybe even if you have to clean some dishes up. Well, that brings me to dishes. If you do have paper plates, I recommend trying to use paper plates so you don't have to clean all your plates all the time with water that you may not have a lot of. If you have an in-ground pool or an above-ground pool, you have a lot of water. So you may be able to keep using like your toilet for a long time with that water out of your pool. Now you may have to chip through some ice, or maybe drill a hole down through your ice, or somehow you have to get through that ice and maybe siphon some water out into some 5-gallon buckets and then bring in your house so they don't freeze again, so you can use that in your toilet. If I lived somewhere where I had a pool, I think I would take every bucket that I have and try to fill all them buckets up and store them maybe in your garage or somewhere that you're not living in your house, so you have a lot of water on hand. Because you're not going to want to be running in and out of your house all the time, opening the doors up, letting all the heat out if you're slowly trying to keep your house warm. All right, well, I think that's just about it. I don't know, I went over a lot of stuff. If you know anything else, please put it down in the comments. A lot of people read all these comments. It may really help somebody out so they can survive or not freeze. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to help support my channel, or you can check out some of my t-shirts. Well, if this happens to you, just stay safe. Try to stay calm and try to make it like you're out camping with your family, except inside your house. God bless, and hopefully you have a nice warm winter.